Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm the Feline Techie, and in January of 2010, Apple announced the iPad. Now, what was kind of important about this announcement was that nobody actually knew how the iPad would actually work, because a lot of companies have made tablet computers in the past and they were actually very clunky and didn't actually work that well, but the iPad proved to be something different. There were rumors in the past of Apple wanting to release a tablet, but nobody knew what it was going to be called. People speculated that it was either going to be called iSlate or iTablet, but they stuck with iPad. Although it was announced in January of 2010, it wasn't released until 2 months later. This had Apple's first time designing a chip, the Apple A4. This had 256 megabytes of RAM. Surprisingly, the processor was actually 1 gigahertz. On the software side of things, the iPad only got support to iOS 5.1.1. The iPad showed that tablet computers can still be huge, and boy was it huge. This thing sold like hotcakes. It was super popular, especially in schools. However, things were about to get a lot more crazy when the second gen iPad was released. Enter March of 2011, we get the iPad 2. The iPad 2 came with a gorgeous new design. It was thinner, and it actually had cameras for the first time on an iPad. Not to mention, software support for this thing was absolutely amazing. This got support from iOS 4 all the way up to iOS 9. That's because it had the A5 chip and 512 megabytes of RAM. Yeah, as you can see, it's running iOS 6 right now because I did a downgrade on it. This was one of the most popular iPad models of all time, and it was famous for actually having support for stuff like FaceTime. Granted, FaceTime doesn't work on iOS 6 anymore, so this iPad was really successful, and Apple caught on to that. So they wanted to make the next generation more successful by adding a Retina display to it. And so, finally in March of 2012, we got the iPad 3. It had a Retina display, and that's about it. That's the only thing it changed from the iPad 2, was that it added a Retina display. It was actually thicker than the iPad 2. However, it was the first iPad with Siri support. All was going well with this iPad. People were actually buying it. It was kind of doing well. I didn't understand the naming of it though, because it was literally called the new iPad. I don't really know why they called it that, but oh well, they did. And you know, Apple's been releasing a new iPad every year in March, so they wouldn't expect them to release anything later in the same year, right? Well, after 6 months of this iPad being out, the iPad 4 was released with a A6 chip, 1 gigabyte of RAM, lightning connector. It was an all-around upgrade from the iPad 2 and 3, which made this one pretty obsolete super fast, which made a lot of people regret upgrading to the iPad 3 instead of waiting a little bit until the iPad 4 came out. The iPad 3 had the same exact specs as the iPad 2, had the same A5, same 512 megabytes of RAM, and it got the same software support to iOS 9. However, A5 plus iOS 9 equals no. It is the slowest iPad out of every single one nowadays. And because this had the Retina display, it was taking up so much battery life. Not to mention it was overheating a lot too. I think the battery life also sucked because this was the first iPad with LTE support as well, so that was also a factor of draining battery. This was all around just not a great iPad. There's a lot of cons to this device. I don't think there's enough pros to outweigh the cons, so if you're trying to capture the success of a previous generation tablet, please don't. Improve the specs, change stuff about it. Don't do what Apple did when they made the iPad 3. It's also so hard to differentiate the damn devices. Even the iPad 4 was super hard to differentiate from these two. The only thing that you'd be able to tell if it was an iPad 4 was the lightning connector, and that's it. The moral of the story is, don't try to capture the success of your previous device by using the same components while slapping a Retina screen on it. It'll just make things worse, and it did for the battery. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you have enjoyed and you want to see more videos like this, make sure to leave a like, even subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one.